The forest stretched like a living shadow, thick with mist and silence. Even the wind seemed afraid to disturb its secrets. The air was damp, carrying the scent of moss and wet earth, and the trees loomed like ancient guardians. Ilara walked carefully, her small satchel filled with herbs and roots swaying at her side. She had always been drawn to the wild places beyond her father's castle, though she knew the stories that the villagers whispered about the cursed woods. Her father had fallen ill, and the town's healers had no cure. Only the rare herbs that grew deep in the forest might save him. Ilara's heart thumped with a mixture of fear and determination. She told herself she would be careful, but even the most careful footsteps could not hide a pure soul from the forest itself. As the fog thickened, a low growl echoed through the trees. Ilara froze, her breath caught in her throat. She had heard these sounds in the stories, but always as something distant, a warning told beside the hearth. This was close. Too close. She scanned the shadowed trees, searching for the source, but the mist swallowed everything beyond a few feet. Then she saw him. Or rather, it. A towering figure stepped silently from the mist. Its body was massive, limbs thick with muscle, and a coat of dark fur glistened in the dim light. Its face was neither human nor animal, twisted in a way that made her skin crawl, and yet drew her eyes toward it. Two amber eyes burned through the fog, intelligent and calculating. I should leave, she whispered to herself. Stepping back, clutching her satchel closer, the beast tilted its head, sniffing the air. Then it growled, a sound that made the ground vibrate. I can smell your innocence, it said, its voice rough and low, like gravel sliding down a cliff. And I will take it. Ilara's heart froze. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs refused to move. The beast took a slow step forward, each movement deliberate, almost regal, and yet, in its eyes, there was something more than hunger, something tragic, like a memory of what it had once been. You won't harm me? She asked, her voice trembling. The beast's head lowered, and for a moment, the menace in its eyes seemed to fade. I am not certain, it said, but I am curious. Very curious. Before Ilara could react, the ground beneath her shifted. Roots, thick as arms, had risen from the forest floor and formed a barrier around her. She tried to step back, but the roots held firm. The beast's gaze never left her. She realized, with a sinking heart, that the forest itself had trapped her. I do not wish to be a prisoner, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I only seek herbs for my father. Please, let me go. The beast stepped closer, and the mist seemed to curl around its feet like living smoke. The forest will not let you leave, it said. Ilara's mind raced. Special? What did that mean? And why did she feel, despite the terror curling in her chest, that the beast was not entirely evil? She searched its face, trying to find any hint of humanity, any sign that it could understand her fear. For hours, or perhaps only minutes, time seemed to lose meaning in the forest. The beast observed her. It circled her slowly, sniffing, its amber eyes never blinking. And yet, it did not attack. Its restraint was puzzling. Ilara found herself studying its form as well, noting the way its movements were almost human, the way its shoulders sloped with quiet strength, the way it seemed to pause and consider, as though wrestling with a decision only it could understand. I will feed you if I must, the beast said at last, but I would rather know you. Ilara felt a shiver run down her spine. Know her? She wanted to ask how such a creature could speak such words, but fear kept her silent. She realized that the forest, the beast, and perhaps even herself were caught in a strange web of destiny, one she could not yet comprehend. As night fell, the fog grew thicker, and the forest seemed to press closer around them. The beast led her to a cave hidden beneath the roots of an enormous tree. Its interior was lined with strange, glowing fungi, and shadows danced along the walls. The air smelled of damp earth and something ancient, like memories long forgotten. "Stay here," the beast said. Its voice was softer now, almost human. "I will watch. You are safe. For now." Quote, Ilara wanted to protest, but the exhaustion of the day's journey and the strangeness of the forest made her too weary. She sank to the ground, clutching her satchel, and watched the beast pace at the mouth of the cave. It moved like a predator, yet each step seemed weighted with thought. With regret, hours passed in silence. The forest outside whispered and shifted. Ilara tried to understand the creature before her. She realized that beneath the frightening exterior was someone or something trapped, a soul caught between what it had been and what it had become. The more she looked, the more she felt a strange pull, a mixture of fear and empathy. When she finally spoke, her voice was small but steady. "Why? Are you like this? What happened to you?" The beast stopped, and its eyes seemed to darken, shadows flickering within. "I was not always this," it said. "Once, I was a prince, a man of flesh and honor. A curse was placed upon me by one I trusted, and I became this, the forest, the shadows, my own anger. They bind me. I am not free. And neither, perhaps, will you be, if you linger here too long." Ilara shivered, but not just from fear. She saw the weight of centuries of pain in its eyes, the depth of loneliness that even the forest could not hide. And despite everything, she felt a spark of courage. "I am not afraid," she said, surprising herself. "I will not leave until I know if there is a way to help you, or at least to heal what can be healed." The beast paused. For the first time, it tilted its head, studying her not as prey, but as a being of thought and courage. The fire of human emotion flickered behind the amber gaze. "Perhaps you are braver than I deserve," it said. "Perhaps you are the one who can face me, not with fear, but with truth." Ilara did not know what the beast meant, but she nodded. The night stretched on, and though sleep was impossible, she felt the first strange sense of companionship with the creature. It did not speak again that night, but it did not leave either. And then, just as the first light of dawn began to touch the misted trees, the forest shifted violently. The roots that had held her began to stir. Something unseen moved through the fog. Something alive. Something hungry. The beast's growl cut through the morning silence, low and dangerous. It stepped forward, towering over her, muscles tensed, eyes blazing. Ilara clutched her satchel and took a step back. "What is it?" she whispered. The beast's lips curled, revealing teeth like polished ivory. "You must learn," it said, voice low, almost a growl, "that the forest does not forgive. And I must protect what is mine." Ilara's heart pounded. She realized, with a mixture of fear and awe, that she had not only entered the forest but had entered the life of a being caught between man and monster. And as the mist swirled around them, she felt the invisible threads of fate tighten, binding her to the beast in ways she could not yet understand. The forest seemed to whisper her name. Somewhere deep in its shadows, an ancient magic watched and waited. And in that moment, Ilara understood the truth. Leaving the forest alive would require more than courage. It would demand a connection she could not yet name. As the beast's amber eyes locked onto hers, the growl deepening, Ilara realized that her journey had only begun, and the forest was already closing in around them. The forest seemed different at dawn. The mist had lifted slightly, but the air still shimmered with secrets. Birds called in soft, hidden voices, and the trees swayed as though they were watching. Ilara did not sleep that night. She had curled up near the glowing fungi of the cave, but her mind refused to rest. The beast, Kale, had remained outside, pacing like a shadow made flesh. She watched him through the cave's opening. Even in his monstrous form, there was a rhythm to his movement, a grace that seemed almost human. The amber of his eyes glowed faintly in the morning light, filled with intelligence and a haunting sorrow. It was terrifying, but it drew her in, and she could not look away. Elara rose carefully, brushing moss from her hands. She had to know more about the creature before them. Kale, she called softly. She had learned his name from the low tones he had used when he spoke of himself. The beast paused, ears flicking, and then stepped closer. "You walk without fear now," he said, voice still rough, still deep, but less threatening than before. "Curiosity is dangerous in this forest. You should know that by now." "I am curious," Elara said, standing taller than she felt. "Not just about the forest, or about you, but about why you are trapped like this. Why does the curse bind you?" Kale lowered his massive head, the fur along his shoulders rippling as he moved. "It is not simple," he said. "I was once a prince, a man who had everything a man could desire: power, wealth, a throne that should have been mine. But I was foolish. I trusted the wrong person. And the curse, it changed me, made me a monster, made me less than human." Elara took a cautious step closer, noticing the way his shoulders sagged, the way his movements, though large and powerful, held a strange sadness. "Do you remember who you were?" she asked. "Yes," he admitted. "But those memories are painful. I remember the laughter, the friends, the love I once knew. And now I remember only hunger, isolation, and the forest that does not forgive." The air seemed heavier as Kale's words lingered. Elara felt a mix of fear and pity. And yet, she could not deny a strange pull toward him. A curiosity that grew stronger with each passing moment. She realized that fear alone could not define her feelings. There was something more, something she could not name. "I want to help you," she said softly. "I do not know how yet, but I feel that you are not just a monster. You are trapped. Yes, but there is still something human inside you." Kale's amber eyes narrowed. "Do you even know what you say?" His growl was low, warning, yet not fully hostile. "If you try to reach me, to touch the curse, it could destroy you. I cannot promise safety. I cannot promise even kindness." Elara did not shrink back. "I do not expect kindness," she said. "Only truth, only honesty. That is enough." For a long moment, Kale did not speak. Then he turned, pacing slowly in a circle around her, as though testing her courage. "You are unlike any human I have known," he said finally. "Perhaps that is why I am drawn to you, not your fear, but your courage, and perhaps your innocence." The word made her cheeks flush. Innocence. She did not know how to respond, and the silence stretched between them, heavy and charged. Suddenly, a sound erupted from deeper in the forest, a rustle of leaves, a snap of a branch. Elara jumped back instinctively. The beast growled, low and warning, stepping in front of her. The muscles of his body tensed, coiled like a spring. His eyes glowed brighter as he scanned the trees, and the mist seemed to swirl around him. "It is the forest testing you," Kale said. "Or perhaps testing me. There are shadows here that prey on weakness, fear, doubt. They can be deadly." Elara's stomach nodded. "Shadows?" she asked. "Not just shadows of light and dark," Kale said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Shadows of the mind. The forest can show your fears, your regrets, your desires. And if you falter, it will consume you." He extended one massive clawed hand toward her. "Come, we must move." Together, they walked deeper into the forest. The light dimmed, filtered through layers of leaves and mist, and the air grew cooler, sharper. Strange whispers drifted around them, almost like voices, but when Elara tried to focus, they were gone. "Do you hear them?" she whispered. Kale's ears twitched. "The forest speaks to those who listen," he said. "It knows what we fear, what we long for, and it will not let you pass without confronting it." As they moved forward, the forest began to change. The trees grew taller, darker, their branches twisting like hands reaching for them. Shadows seemed to flicker at the edges of her vision, and Alara's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to turn back, but she could not. Not when she had come so far. Kale noticed her hesitation. "Do not falter," he said. "Fear is natural, but it must not control you. You are braver than many humans I have known." Alara swallowed hard. "I am not so sure," she admitted. They reached a small clearing, where the mist hung like a veil, and in the center was a pool of water, dark and still. Alara approached cautiously, peering into its depths. Her reflection shimmered, then shifted, showing her not as she was, but as her fears imagined. Pale, fragile, alone, Kale stepped beside her, his massive shadow falling across the water. "This is what I meant," he said. "The forest shows us who we fear we are. And if we do not face it, it will consume us entirely." Alara took a deep breath. She wanted to scream, to run, to escape. But then she thought of her father, of the people who relied on her courage. She straightened, meeting the distorted reflection with determination. "I am not afraid," she said aloud, though her voice trembled. "I will not be consumed." The water shimmered again, and the shadowy reflection faded. Alara felt a small surge of triumph. Kale watched her closely, his eyes softer now, though still filled with caution. "You face the darkness with courage," he said quietly. "That is rare. Most humans would falter." Alara felt a strange warmth, not from the sun, but from being seen. Truly seen. By the beast. She realized that this creature, terrifying as it was, understood the struggles within her better than anyone else she had known. As they continued through the forest, Kale began to speak more of himself. He told her about his life as a prince, his family, the betrayal that had led to his curse. He spoke of loneliness and regret, of love lost and trust shattered. Each story was like a thread, weaving a connection between them. Alara listened, sometimes in fear, sometimes in awe, but always with empathy. She began to see the man behind the beast, the human soul trapped beneath layers of fur and muscle, anger, and magic. And she felt a stirring in her heart, a mix of fear, longing, and an unspoken hope. The forest grew darker still as they neared an old stone ruin, overgrown with ivy and moss. Strange carvings covered the walls, glowing faintly as if the magic of the forest still lingered there. Kale stopped at the entrance, his body tense. "This place is old," he said. "It holds power. Dangerous power. If you are to stay close, you must understand that the forest tests us at every step. The shadows here are alive, and they feed on weakness." Alara nodded, though her hands shook. "I am ready," she said. Kale studied her for a long moment, his amber eyes searching hers. Then he lowered his massive head, almost as if bowing in respect. "Very well," he said. "Then come, face the shadows with me." As they stepped into the ruins together, the whispers of the forest grew louder, swirling around them like a living thing. Shadows danced along the walls, forming shapes that mimicked their fears, their doubts, even their hidden desires. Alara's heart pounded, and for the first time, she realized that the forest and the beast was not merely a threat. They were a mirror, reflecting everything within her, forcing her to confront her true self. And Kale was both protector and challenge. He was the danger she feared, and the companion she could not resist. The lines between fear and trust, danger and fascination, began to blur. As the shadows twisted and whispered, Alara felt her courage tested in ways she had never imagined. She reached out to Kale instinctively, and for a moment, their hands brushed human and beast, fear and trust intertwined. Then a shadow lunged from the darkness, and Kale roared, catching it before it could reach her. The force of his movement shook the ruins. Alara gasped. What was that?" "The forest tests us," Kale said, his voice low and urgent, "and we must survive, or we will be lost." Alara looked into his eyes, seeing both warning and something deeper, something unspoken, something dangerous yet magnetic. She realized that the forest had only just begun its tests, and their bond was only beginning to form. The shadows whispered, the ruins hummed, and the forest waited. And Alara knew that the dance of darkness had only begun. The ruins echoed with the whispers of the forest, a chorus of shadows that seemed to breathe with life. Alara followed Kale carefully, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and determination. Each step deeper into the ancient stones felt like walking into another world, one where the forest's magic held sway, where reality bent to its will. Kale's massive form moved beside her, alert and tense. Though he was no longer a distant threat, his presence was both comfort and warning. Alara had learned to trust him cautiously, understanding that his instincts were not entirely tamed. And yet, even in his monstrous form, she sensed the weight of the man trapped beneath the prince he had once been. The human who had loved and lost. The soul that now wrestled with rage and regret. This place, Kale said, his voice low, is older than any kingdom, older than any king or queen. It remembers those who have walked here, and those who have failed. The forest is patient, but it does not forgive. The shadows here, they do not only test your strength, they test your heart. Alara shivered. And what do they want from us? The truth, Kale said simply, and the courage to face it. Many come here seeking power, or knowledge, or wealth. Few survive because they cannot face what they truly are. They reached a circular chamber at the heart of the ruins. The walls were carved with strange runes that pulsed faintly, like the rhythm of a hidden heartbeat. A shallow pool lay at the center, its surface dark and still, reflecting their images back at them. Kale stopped at the edge of the pool. Look, he said. Do not turn away. Alara peered into the water and gasped. The reflection was not her own. The surface shimmered and twisted, showing her deepest fears. Failing her father, being lost forever in the forest. Alone and powerless. The images shifted, showing the people she loved suffering because she could not protect them. Her chest tightened, and for a moment, she felt frozen by despair. You must not let it control you, Kale said, stepping beside her. Fear is natural, but it must not rule you. Face it, and it will lose its power. Alara took a deep breath and focused on the reflection. She saw herself trembling, but she also saw something else, her courage, the part of her that refused to be defeated, the spark of determination that had carried her this far. She reached out, touching the water with her hand. The surface rippled, and the visions faltered, weakening under her will. Kale watched silently, his amber eyes reflecting both admiration and something darker, something of himself he had tried to suppress. You have strength, he murmured. Strength most humans do not know they possess. But there is more to survive here than courage alone. The shadows demand sacrifice. Alara frowned. Sacrifice? Yes, Kale said. To break a curse, to survive the forest's tests, one must be willing to give something of themselves. And that is not always easy. Alara's mind raced. She had already risked everything to come here. Was she ready to risk more? To face what the forest demanded of her? She glanced at Kale, whose massive frame seemed both protective and burdened. She realized that he, too, had been tested, had given parts of himself to survive centuries of isolation and darkness. Suddenly, the shadows in the chamber shifted violently. Shapes rose from the floor, forming dark, twisting figures that lunged toward them. Alara gasped and stepped back, but Kale's roar echoed through the chamber. A sound that shook the walls. With one swift motion, he intercepted the shadows, his claws tearing through the illusions as if cutting through thick smoke. Alara, stay behind me, he commanded. She nodded, though her heart pounded with both fear and awe. She had seen his strength before, but now she realized the full measure of it. Kale was not just a monster. He was a protector, a force of nature bound by both curse and conscience. The shadows writhed and hissed, then recoiled, and Kale turned to her. "They are not merely illusions," he said. "They are born from your fears and mine. Only by confronting them together can we survive." Alara swallowed hard. "Then we face them," she said, steeling herself. Together, they moved deeper into the chamber. The shadows rose again, forming the shapes of people they had lost, of failures they had endured. Kale's own reflection appeared, not as the beast she saw, but as the man he had been, the prince betrayed and cursed, the human soul weighed down by centuries of regret. "You see now," he said, his voice low and almost human, "why I am as I am. The curse is not only of flesh, but of spirit. And yet, there is a chance for redemption, if one has the courage." Alara reached out, placing her hand on his arm. Despite his size and the roughness of his fur, she felt warmth and something deeper, something human, something unbroken. "Then we will face it," she said. "Together." For the first time, Kyle hesitated, his amber eyes locking with hers. There was fear there, and something more, something he had long denied. "Hope, together," he repeated, and the words sounded foreign on his lips, yet powerful. The shadows surged one final time, and the chamber shook. Alara felt herself stumble, but Kale caught her, holding her close. The shapes of their fears collided around them, but their bond, fragile though it was, held. Alara's courage strengthened Kale's resolve, and Kale's protection gave her the confidence to face the darkest parts of herself. As the shadows faded, the chamber fell silent. The air seemed lighter, less oppressive. Alara looked at Kale, seeing both the beast and the man he had once been. She realized that the connection between them had grown, shaped by fear, trust, and mutual understanding. But even in the calm, there was a warning. The runes on the walls pulsed brighter, as if acknowledging their small victory. Kale's growl rumbled in his chest, a sound of both relief and tension. "This is not the end," he said. "The forest. The curse. There is more to come. The price of redemption is high, and the sorceress who bound me still lingers in spirit. She will not allow freedom without cost." Alara nodded, her hand still resting on his arm. "Then we will face it," she said quietly. "Whatever comes, we face it. Together. Then we will." Whatever comes, Kale studied her, and for the first time, he allowed himself a small, almost human smile. "You are braver than I expected," he said. "Perhaps you are the key, not only to breaking the curse, but to saving us both." Alara felt a surge of both pride and fear. She had come seeking herbs for her father, but she had found something far greater and far more dangerous. A bond with a creature born of curse and shadow. A connection that could save him or destroy them both. As they left the chamber and returned to the ruins' outer paths, the forest seemed to watch them. The mist thickened again, curling around their feet like living fingers. Strange whispers drifted on the wind, urging caution, hinting at unseen dangers. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. Roots and stones shifted, and from the shadows rose a figure both beautiful and terrifying, a spirit of the forest, bound to the curse and older than Kale himself. Its eyes glowed like embers, and its presence radiated both power and judgment. "You dare to face the forest and the curse?" the spirit said, voice like wind through dry leaves. "Do you not understand the cost of your actions?" Kale growled low in his throat, stepping protectively in front of Alara. "We understand," he said. "We are not afraid to face what is required." "We are not afraid to face what is required." The spirit studied them, moving closer. "To break the chains that bind him," it said, "one must offer what is most precious. Only a selfless act can undo centuries of darkness. And the forest will take its toll. Will take its toll." Alara felt her stomach tighten. She looked at Kale, seeing both the beast and the man she had begun to care for. She knew now that redemption demanded courage, sacrifice, and love, and she also understood that the forest would test them further, forcing them to confront not only the shadows of the past but the choices of the heart. Kale's gaze softened, though tension remained. "You have already proven your courage," he said to her, "but the forest, and the curse, will demand more. Are you ready to give of yourself, not for me, but for what is right?" Ilara took a deep breath. She had faced fear, doubt, and despair. She had seen the beast's humanity, and known her own strength. Now, she nodded. "I am ready," she said. The spirit's eyes glowed brighter, and the forest seemed to hum with energy. Shadows danced more violently, whispering their warnings, testing their resolve, and Kale, standing beside her, prepared for what was to come. Ilara realized, as the forest closed in around them, that the true trial had only begun. And this trial would demand everything they had: courage, trust, and the willingness to sacrifice for something greater than themselves. The ruins seemed alive as dawn broke over the forest, a pale light filtering through the mist. Shadows lingered in the corners, twisting and shifting as if watching. Ilara stood beside Kale at the edge of the circular chamber, her heart pounding. The forest had tested them, and now the final trial awaited. She could feel it in the air, an invisible weight pressing on her chest, whispering warnings of danger and sacrifice. Kale's massive form loomed beside her, tense and coiled like a spring. His amber eyes glowed with determination and fear. Though he had survived centuries as a beast, the final test loomed before him. The forest spirit that had appeared yesterday watched from the shadows, its presence both commanding and unsettling. Ilara took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Kale," she said softly, "whatever happens, we face it together. I trust you." Kale's head lowered, brushing the top of her hand with his snout in a gesture almost human. "And I trust you," he said, "more than I have trusted anyone, in a long, long time." The spirit floated closer, eyes glowing like embers. "To break the curse," it said, "one must act selflessly, not for love, not for pride, but for the good of another. Only such an act can undo what has been done." Ilara felt a shiver run down her spine. "And if we fail?" she asked quietly. "Then the curse remains," the spirit said, "and the forest will claim what it is owed." Kale growled low in his throat, stepping protectively in front of her. "Then we must not fail," he said. "Whatever it takes." Ilara nodded. Her mind flashed to her father, to the people she loved, and to the bond she had begun to feel with Kale. She realized that courage alone was not enough. Sacrifice would be required not just from Kale, but from herself as well. The chamber pulsed with energy as the forest seemed to close in around them. Shadows moved like living things, weaving illusions of their fears. Ilara saw images of Kale trapped forever as a beast, of herself lost in the forest, alone and powerless. Her chest tightened, but she remembered the lessons of the past days: courage, trust, and selflessness. Kale's hand brushed hers as he spoke. "You are stronger than the forest knows," he said. "And braver than I expected." Ilara met his gaze, and in that moment, she understood. The key to breaking the curse was not simply courage. It was the bond between them. The act of trust, love, and selflessness would break the chains. They stepped together toward the central pool, where the dark water shimmered like a mirror of their souls. Ilara knelt beside it, and Kale placed a massive hand on her shoulder. "Do not be afraid," he whispered. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Ilara nodded and reached into the water. It was cold, but it seemed to respond to her touch, rippling and glowing. The shadows writhed around them, forming visions of the sorceress who had cursed Kale, her face twisted in anger and malice, her eyes burning like coals. "You dare defy me," the illusion hissed. "You cannot undo what I have done." Ilara stood taller, her hand still in the water. "We do not seek defiance," she said firmly. "We seek justice. And the forest itself will judge what is right." Kyle stepped beside her, his form enormous and terrifying, yet filled with purpose. He let the beast within him roar, not with violence, but with determination. The shadows recoiled, whispering and twisting. But they could not break the bond between Kale and Alara. The pool's surface began to glow brighter, pulsing with energy that mirrored the rhythm of their hearts. Kale lowered his head, and in a voice that was both beast and man, he spoke. I give myself freely. My curse, my anger, my fear, I offer it for her. Not as a beast, not as a prince, but as myself. Alara felt a warmth spread through her, a power that lifted the shadows and silenced the whispers. The forest itself seemed to breathe, holding its judgment. She realized then that her own courage, her willingness to trust and to care without fear, was the final piece. I offer my heart, she said, her voice steady. Not to break the curse, not to save you, but because it is right. Because fear and anger have no place here. Only trust. Only truth. The pool shimmered violently, light spilling into the chamber, chasing shadows to the farthest corners. The forest roared like a storm, yet there was no wind, only the power of magic and will. Alara and Kale stood together, hands joined, hearts aligned, facing the judgment of the forest and the echoes of centuries of sorrow. Then, in a sudden surge of light, the curse shattered. Kale's form convulsed, fur falling away, muscles shrinking, until where the beast had stood, a man emerged, human, fully human, but marked by the trials he had endured. His amber eyes remained, glowing softly with warmth and depth, reflecting both the man he had been and the man he had become. Alara staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth. Kale, she whispered. He reached for her, and for the first time, she saw the full weight of his relief and wonder. It is done, he said softly. The curse, it is broken. But the forest was not yet silent. From the shadows, faint whispers remained, a reminder that magic never forgets. The spirit appeared once more, its form flickering like smoke. The curse is undone, it said. But know this. Darkness is never truly gone. It is only held at bay by courage, trust, and love. Guard it well, for the forest watches always. Alara nodded, understanding the warning. We will, she said. We will honor what we have learned here. Kale smiled, a real, human smile that lit his entire face. And I will honor you, he said, for giving me a chance, for trusting me, for facing the forest with me. They stood together in the ruins, hands intertwined, hearts beating in quiet triumph. The shadows had receded, the whispers had faded, and the forest seemed to breathe in relief. And yet, the lessons remained: courage, trust, sacrifice, and the bond forged through trials and danger. Alara looked at Kale, the man who had been a beast, and felt a surge of emotion she could not name. Respect, admiration, and something deeper. Something that had grown in the quiet moments of fear, in the shared struggles, in the moments when trust had been the only path forward. Kale's hand brushed her cheek gently. You are remarkable, he said. Braver than I ever imagined. And, more than that, you have a light I thought lost to this world. Alara felt her heart swell. And you, she said, have a soul I never thought I would see again. Human, kind, strong, and capable of love. For a moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The air shimmered, leaves rustled softly, and even the ruins seemed to glow with quiet approval. Alara and Kale stood together, a bond forged in darkness and shadow, tempered by courage and compassion. Then, as they began to leave the ruins and step back into the forest, a soft rustle caught their attention. From the edge of the trees, a figure emerged, human, cloaked in shadow, watching them. The presence was not threatening, but it reminded them that the world beyond the forest was still full of challenges, dangers, and mysteries. Ilara glanced at Kale, who gave a small nod. Whatever comes, he said, we face it together. The curse is broken, yes, but our journey is not over. Ilara smiled, feeling both fear and excitement. Together, she agreed. As they walked back through the forest, the mist parting before them like a living guide. The forest seemed to hum softly, as if acknowledging the bond they had formed. And in that quiet, magical moment, Ilara realized that the innocence the beast had once claimed to smell had never been taken. It had transformed into trust, courage, and a love neither of them had expected. The forest's shadows lingered, watching, waiting. But for now, Kael and Ilara had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. Their bond was a light in the forest, a promise that even in a world of curses and magic, love and redemption could prevail. And somewhere, deep within the ruins, the forest whispered one final warning, soft as a breeze. The trials are never truly over, but those who face them together are never truly lost. Ilara and Kael stepped out of the forest, hand in hand, their hearts aligned, their bond unbroken, ready to face whatever the world beyond the trees might hold.